Republicans are gearing to take over as the majority in the House, and on deck are probes into President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. Here's a snippet of what House Oversight Committee ranking member James Comer said last week.
We have repeatedly called on the Biden Treasury Department to release additional financial documents to committee Republicans, but thus far Treasury has refused. We want to know what the Biden administration is trying to hide from the American people and why they are not being transparent.
In question is Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings, but the GOP's ultimate goal is to unveil whether the president is linked and how much he knew. So I think maybe you're a bit more skeptical of doing this, Batya, than I am. Look, I take it that. So this is something that the Republican base, it matters to them, and Republicans ran on doing this. So to the extent that they won the House, I think they have to deliver on their promise to hold some hearings here. And I do have questions, almost more so now, about the FBI's handling of this, why law enforcement thought there was nothing to the laptop story, the evidence that has emerged, some whistleblowers saying that they slow-walked an investigation here because they didn't want to interfere with the election. Those are a lot of very worrying questions to me. And then, of course, if there's, we want to know, and if there's some basis to think that there was an influence campaign, that Joe Biden was influenced by Hunter Biden, there was something untoward and improper there. No one has established that yet, but it could be the case. That said, is this more of a media fascination or a conservative fascination than something that, everyday people are really paying rapt attention to?
So I think the polling shows that Republican voters are sort of split evenly on this issue. To me, it is just such a huge distraction from what the Republicans were put in office to do. And it is exactly why they didn't get a bigger margin of victory in the midterms, because Americans are screaming out for action on inflation, they want good jobs, on crime, on immigration. And what do they get? They get, basically revenge investigations into the president's son. Now, obviously, Hunter Biden is a deeply corrupt crack addict. Like, there's no dispute about that. Possibly, there was some kind of something that involved his father as well. But to me, and here is the real point, this is not just a distraction from the kitchen table issues that Americans are screaming out for help on. It's a distraction from the real problem with China, which is that the Democrats are soft on China, both in terms of foreign policy and in terms of domestic policy. China is our number one adversary, and they are stealing our jobs. I mean, 2% of our GDP is imports and exports with China, right? There, all of these, what used to be great working class jobs that secure a middle class lifestyle, have been exported to China, and manufacturing continues to be done there, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's, electronics, batteries, every Tesla battery. So to me, there's a much bigger problem here, which is that the Democrats do not have a China policy that is good for the working class. They have a China policy that rewards the elites. The guy who was really good on this was Donald Trump. And it just kind of sucks that he was so good on this one issue, and he's, so determined to destroy his own legacy. And so to me, pinning it on President Biden, pinning it on Hunter is, it's like saying this is the corruption. No, the corruption goes much deeper.
Well, I mean, they can do multiple things, right? They can hold investigations on Hunter Biden. They could, theoretically work on the issues they just outlined. They can, and I hope they do. To me, the much more important investigations to be held by Republicans taking the House are investigations about the pandemic, about our funding of gain-of-function research, about connections to the Wuhan lab, Dr. Fauci, on that front, on the what did we fund, not the, right, I disagree with his recommendations, et cetera. We're not going to investigate people for having had wrong guidance, but we should investigate them for funding, for these serious concerns people have that I absolutely share, that this really could have come from a lab and could have been based on research that should not have been done. That, I think, is a very crucial grounds for an investigation for Republicans to lead. I hope they throw massive effort into that. It's only a shame Senator Rand Paul is in the Senate rather than the House, because he's been, I think, so good questioning Fauci on those subjects. They should do I think they should do a good and thorough Hunter Biden investigation as well. It's something they promised a lot of people who voted for them. And given how the FBI treated the story, I think that gives the investigation some legitimacy. That's really what I care about. What is law enforcement? How are they operating? Were they engaged in a political malfeasance? Because then that goes to a lot of what's happening with the Mar-a-Lago investigation, with the Russia investigation, with so many other things. There's no trust of law enforcement, of national security advisors. These people seem very partisan. They've gotten a lot of things wrong. I want to know more about that. I don't care, and I think the vast majority of Americans don't care if all it is that Hunter Biden is a drug addict and that his father had some compassion for him. I don't even think those drugs should be illegal. So I have no issue there. Did he try to lobby his dad? Even that, well, he's not he should not be a public official, but Hunter Biden is not a public official. It only matters if Joe Biden did something diplomatically because of Hunter Biden's leveraging, and nobody's really come close to demonstrating them yet. We'll see, but to me, the important thing is what was the FBI doing with respect to all of this?
I hear all that, but yet I still feel that, in the divide between the Republicans' donor class and their voter class, this is like red meat for the donor class. The voter class, I think, is much less focused on revenge and much less focused on this. It might be important. I'm not saying it's not important, but I'm saying for this to be the thing they're focused on out of the gate, this is why they didn't get more of a majority, because people just don't trust them to have a plan to make their lives better. You can't put a Hunter Biden investigation into your car and make it drive, right? You can't put a Hunter Biden laptop investigation into your pot and make chicken soup.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if this is I wouldn't say this one is like a donor class versus voter class. It's definitely it's a consumer of very right-wing media class issue, which is not necessarily I don't think there are probably a lot of high-profile Republican donors who care about this either. Maybe there are some. It's people very hyper-partisan, paying attention to conservative media, I think probably care about this. But you're right. That's not the same thing as saying, working-class people who are independent-minded but are coming to Republicans for policy solutions because they're disaffected with Democrats. Is this something they care about? No. So I do take your point on that. But we'll have to see, obviously, how it unfolds. It will be interesting. We'll be back with more Rising right after this.